Can you believe February is almost over? I can't. So much has happened, and I'll share with you how my plants are doing for the month of February. Hi, welcome to Attainable Green. I'm Jess, and today we're going to be doing an update on my orchid collection. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened during January to February and just how things are going for now. So first off, we're going to start with flowers. So from January to February, there hasn't been a lot of new flowers growing in my collection. Currently, I only have 2, and it's fairly small, but you know, I think I just don't have plants that grow year round. I'm still trying to get my orchid collection to the point where I will have flowers year round, but so far, not there yet. I have the Oncidium Twinkle Oro. Now this was a new addition that I got a couple of months ago, and it came in bud, and now it's currently in bloom. So it just started to bloom, and I'm really excited to see it look once all of the flowers are open, but it's going to take a while because judging by the maturity of the other parts of the spikes, it'll be a while before it'll be in full flower. Nevertheless, I think this is a great addition because I have been able to grow twinkles for quite some time, and I am definitely enjoying the look of them. Once this plant finishes blooming and starts new growth, I'm going to be potting it up in a self-watering setup with small bark as the media, and I think that's going to be a great way to grow these plants. So far, all of my Oncidium Twinkles are growing in that kind of setup. They seem to love it, enjoy it, and so that to me is a sign of success. If it's doing well, I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to keep going and have plants that enjoy that kind of setup. The next plant in bloom is the Macabre Schunkeana, or the Brasiliorchis Schunkeana. This plant is similar to a Macabre, except that it has 2 leaves coming out of the bulb instead of 1 leaf coming out of the bulb. Some people say that it's very similar to the Macabre variabilis. That is a way to tell the difference between those 2 plants. So the Schunkeana is actually really cool. It has these black flowers that's really dark burgundy. It really looks very dark, and it has a very nice look to them. The thing about the flowers is that they kind of hide in between the leaves. They grow really close to the base of the plant. So if you're not looking out for them, you almost miss them. And in my case, I almost did too, until I was looking for something the other day, and I was like, oh, is that a bug in that plant? And it turned out to be the bud of the flower, like it was just getting ready to open. So then that was like really exciting. And then I picked up the plant and I was looking for it. And I'm like, oh, not just 1, but now I have 5. So that is really cool. There's going to be a couple more flowers coming in, poking through, and this plant has been really easy to grow. I grow this outside, just kind of under the shade of my Cattleyas, so it doesn't get super strong light because it gets the shade from the taller Cattleyas covering it. It also needs quite a bit of water, so that's why there's a layer of sphagnum moss on top to kind of retain more moisture in the pot itself, and that's also why it's in a slightly bigger pot. It's in like a 6-inch pot, and really it could probably fit in a smaller one, but because of that, it holds a lot more moisture that makes the plant happier, I think. So it's doing really well. There's also a lot of new growth on this plant, so it kind of takes care of itself. It's gonna look like a small little bush, and it's really exciting. The only thing I wish is that these flowers would be more visible from the leaves, because they're really beautiful and they're stunning, but you can't really see them unless you're kind of like looking through them, and it kind of looks like, you know, looking through the grass to kind of find some flowers buried in there. So that's the only downside to growing this plant, is that it's harder to see the flowers, but the flowers themselves are really stunning. So if you really like black orchids, you know, like the Monniera Millennium Magic, this one might be for you. If you really are into those black flowers, this one's great. And I think it's dark enough that you can definitely tell that it's black and not like, oh, it's kind of magenta or it's like a really dark burgundy. I think it definitely has a black look to this plant. Some say that the flowers are fragrant, but I haven't noticed a fragrance on this plant. So I don't know if mine's just one that doesn't smell, but I haven't noticed it at all. Now the next section is about plants that are in bud, and it's really exciting this year because I have a lot of plants that are kind of first time bloomers in my space. So I just want to share with you some that are kind of coming into season, and I'm really looking forward to how they grow. The first one is the Angraecum leonis. So I have 2 Angraecum leonis. One is a Madagascar version that had bloomed before, and this one is the COMOROS island version, which is considered larger, should have larger flowers. Now, last year, this plant didn't seem to want to put out flowers, but this year it has 2 spikes, one on each fan. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this one elongate and grow. Hopefully we'll see buds later on the season, and this one should be blooming around July, August time. So I have a ways before we get there, but so far it's really exciting just to see spikes on this plant. The next plant is the Cymbidium Sumatra. Now last year is my first year into Cymbidiums, not only Asian Cymbidiums, but also regular Cymbidiums. So I picked up 2, and this one, the Cymbidium Sumatra, is in spike, and the buds are finally coming in and it's starting to separate, and I think this is going to be a spectacular show. Cymbidiums are pretty much the easiest plant you can grow in Southern California, especially outdoors. They're pretty low maintenance and they take care of themselves, and this one is no exception. I didn't really do anything different to them. I just kind of put them in a spot, let them do their thing, and I'm getting flowers. So for me, that's the exciting part about growing Cymbidiums or growing orchids. It's kind of like you don't have to put too much effort and you get flowers. Like, that's great. I'm really enjoying Cymbidiums, even though they take up a lot of space. Like, they have really large leaves. This plant is about 3 feet tall, but I think the show will be quite spectacular. So I can't wait to see this one in bloom, and I'll probably bloom next month, judging by the rate of growth on this plant. The next plant is the Cymbidium goeringii. Now, this one is an Asian Cymbidium, and this one was known to be kind of tricky. Some people have said that it's easy to grow but hard to flower, and I think that's because they said it has to meet certain wintertime temperature conditions in order for the buds to really mature and grow. And in my case, I treated it like the rest of my plants, and I got a spike, and so far the bud is continued to elongate and grow. So hopefully we'll see a flower from this one soon. The goeringii tends to only have 1 flower per spike, so it's not going to be a huge impressive show, but it's exciting for me because that's kind of a small step towards success in growing these plants. Growing Asian Cymbidiums is considered a very different beast, and some people have very strong opinions about how these plants grow. And in my current situation, I treat it almost like the regular Cymbidiums because I just put it in a location, water it every so often, leave it alone, let it do its thing outdoors, and it's doing fine. It remains to be seen how the rest of my Asian Cymbidiums will do, but for now, the goeringii, it's definitely spiking, so I'm really excited to see how this one will do in the future. Now, the next 2 plants that I have that are in bud are kind of problematic. I'm having some problems with this. So this is the Epicattleya Siam Jade, and this plant has not been doing well, and I couldn't figure out why for the longest time, but now checking out this plant, it's in bud, it has 2 spikes, and it's covered in mealybugs. So that's probably what was causing the decline of this plant, and I just didn't know, and I didn't have time to check. I am going to have to do a lot of work on this plant. I gotta remove the bugs, repot it, and just make sure it's nice and clean. And currently it's in quarantine, so it's not gonna infect any other plants. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it be, clean up the bugs, and we'll see how it goes from there. And the last plant is the Paphiopedilum Macabre Venus. Now, this is Paphiopedilum, and this one's probably my most vigorous plant. It's been doing well, and it definitely has a spike, and the bud is going to open pretty soon. So I'm really looking forward to how the flowers look. I think every year successfully, the colors and saturation of this plant has deepened, and the presentation of the flowers has just gotten better each year. So that is really exciting. The downside is that this plant also has a mealybug issue. I'm finding it between fans, I'm finding it on the spike. So it's not the greatest, and it's also in quarantine. So hopefully I can remedy that, clean up this plant, repot it, remove the dead fans and the dying ones, and just give this plant a second chance to grow and thrive. I really like this plant. I think it's great, and I just hope that I'm able to just maintain the health of the plant so that it can do better. I think this year I kind of neglected a couple of my plants, so I am having a couple of mealybug issues that are popping up here and there. It's not a huge infestation, but it's just something that happens from time to time, and it's just something that I have to deal with. So overall, my collection is doing okay. I think I am coming up with a couple of issues on some of my plants. There's dehydration problems, there's some pest issues, there's just things that I need to just reassess. So as for the rest of my collection, I would say that it's kind of in flux. Probably every year, every time I say this, it's kind of been the same. I gotta reduce my collection, focus on the ones that I like, and see where it goes. Currently, we're in a drought here in California, and they've actually started implementing the drought restrictions. The water usage that I have, we're trying to reduce the amount that we're using, and if we go over the allotted amount, then you got to pay a fee. So that is going to be pretty tough as we go towards the summer season, because we're going to need more water as the weather increases. And because of that, I don't know how much we're going to have to allocate for my plants and to keep them healthy and thriving. So that's why I'm trying to reduce and condense my collection and pick plants that can handle some periods of dryness. That's why I'm keeping like my Cattleyas and some of the Paphs that I have, some of the other plants that tend to do better with drier conditions and that can handle a little bit less water. Seems to be more beneficial in my case. So hopefully my collection will probably solidify and be more normalized in the next couple of months. And even though my collection will be smaller, it'll be more focused, so I can grow plants better and have less issues. So that's my update for January and February. Things have been a little hectic here, but hopefully it'll slow down, so we'll be able to put out more videos soon and to share with you how things are going. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more updates, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!